First of all, you may have noticed, or not, that I am not Dan Cauchy, Executive Director, Automotive Grade Linux. I am Walt Miner, Senior Director of Automotive Grade Linux, who kind of does a little bit of everything, community management, program management. So Dan isn't here. This is the first all-member meeting that he's ever missed. So he injured his neck pretty badly. Although it's really it's one of those things where he didn't really do anything to it. It just kind of like started bothering him and it got progressively worse. And this morning he had a procedure involving a spinal injection into his neck, and it went well, and he's now recovering at home. So that's why Dan isn't here. That's him in that. I told him he looked stunning in that gown. I don't know why he didn't appreciate that. So. That's the bad news. The worst news is this means that you're going to have to listen to me twice this morning. I really apologize. Take some anti-nausea pills if you have to. It'll be okay. So first of all, thank you to our sponsors. Honda, Renesas, our platinum sponsors. Our gold sponsor is Panasonic Automotive. And it says the Linux Foundation, but it's really Lineo and their training courses that are the sponsor this week. So I encourage everybody to go, and there's some demos set up and some kiosks set up in the back. I encourage everybody to go visit those. There's some really cool stuff going on with AGL, and you can see what the latest is in all of our software. So the first thing I want to get to is we want to welcome some new members that have joined AGL in the last year since December, basically. It's EMQ, MediaTek, Very Good Ventures, VA Linux, and Lineo, who I just mentioned, have all joined Automotive Grade Linux in the last 6 months or so. So, okay, here's what we want to talk about. So we're at the beginning, really, of a profound transformation in the automotive industry. What we see happening is that software is the new engine. From horsepower to software power. More and more, your cars, which have always had a lot of software in them, the last 20 years, the amount of software has just been growing almost exponentially, and the number of ECUs that are in your vehicle is really crazy. There's a crazy number of boards in your car, and we're moving from an experience with having all that hardware and all those different units, driving that into a software-defined vehicle where a lot of that functionality gets moved onto a single high compute platform. So other industries have undergone this same transformation. The mobile phone industry, the wireless industry, really, I used to work at Motorola many years ago, and we, started with these brick phones and StarTAC phones. Very limited ability to update the phone on the fly, practically none. To an integrated hardware, software, physical keyboard. You had your BlackBerry with limited apps. You had other things like some of the Nokia phones that had very limited apps, no really concept of an app store. And then Apple really kind of broke the mold there and decoupled hardware and software. They had a virtual keyboard for the first time, an app ecosystem, over-the-air updates, and you'll see your iPhones are supported for many years. You can have an iPhone 12 that's still working 6 years later and still getting updates from Apple. So, and the automotive industry is really undergoing the same transformation as the mobile phone industry and others have undergone in the last 20, 25 years. So what are those cross-industry lessons? You've got, like I said, the mobile phones in their ecosystem where you have app stores, you have hardware that's really can be updated every year, and you still have that same look and feel every year from those providers, whether it's Android or whether it's Apple. Networking and software-defined networks have decoupled the control and the data planes. You can replace your hardware in your network very seamlessly now, where 25 years ago that was virtually impossible. Cloud, we've moved from many people have moved from having physical hardware on their desk to, an all cloud solution or a hybrid solution with virtualized infrastructure and containers. Kubernetes has really transformed the whole idea of how you use software and how you do that on the desktop or how you do that in the cloud. So what are the key components of a software-defined vehicle? You've got central software on powerful processors. And we've seen some companies that have developed these really big, liquid-cooled ECUs that have a huge amount of compute on them. They consolidate functions, and it reduces the amount of complexity in the wiring in the vehicle. Then really decouple the hardware and the software. So you have this unit that's common across all of your vehicle lines. Then you can put whichever software you want on that vehicle, and it allows you to scale up or down into your vehicle lines with the same hardware or with similar hardware, as long as the compute platform is agnostic to the software. So you could envision a case where you have a compute platform with a certain amount of TOPS to it, and then as you go up your vehicle line, you're going to spend more money on more expensive hardware for your Maybach or whatever your high-end car is, and have that more expensive hardware. But the software all runs the same because you've got virtualized devices and virtual machines that you can move around from unit to unit. And it really abstracts those hardware resources. And by having the virtualized devices, you can have your developers, we all know real automotive hardware, especially in the development phase, is extremely expensive. And you've got a lot of developers, maybe hundreds of developers who need that hardware. Well, you can now move that into simulation and move that into the cloud and not have to spend as much on, say, individual high compute PCs or Linux boxes, depending on how you're doing your development, and move some of that efficiency into the cloud. The other idea is you have a consistent user experience similar to the phone, so your vehicle looks and feels the same whether you're in a low-end vehicle or a high-end vehicle for that particular product line. The other key thing is continuous delivery, continuous software updates via over-the-air updates. So we've seen Tesla has led this charge for quite a long time. I know in my vehicle I get periodic updates for not just the IVI, not just the maps, but also they'll tell me they're doing other ECU updates, which I'm always a little leery of, but they do what they do, Hyundai. But they fix bugs, there's security patches, and there's a call for more and more with the CRA and with other regulatory bodies to have the ability to update that device, whether it's IVI or an ADAS device, over the lifetime of the vehicle. And finally, again, decoupling the life cycles of the hardware and the software. So you can deliver that hardware into the vehicle and maybe not know what the final software configuration is, until you actually get into the factory. So what does this all mean? So, like I said, today you've got today's vehicles have over 60 to 100 ECUs per vehicle, and just tens of millions of lines of code. Some of that is higher end operating systems like Linux or Android. A lot of that is RTOSes and things like that. A lot of those ECUs are not easily manageable, at least remotely. You've got to go into the dealer. You've got to spend a lot of time at the dealer waiting for them to update software. Safety and security fixes can be difficult from the user, from the customer perspective. As we move towards AGL's SODEV platform, which is our open source reference platform for software-defined vehicles, you'll have powerful, centralized, multi-core SOCs, consolidation of the software, more easily manageable and maintainable software. Then as we decouple the hardware and the software, today, again, very tightly coupled hardware and software development within your tier ones. It's very difficult to upgrade those ECUs. And especially the ones that are buried and have only have access via CAN bus. Again, if you can virtualize them and put them onto higher compute platforms, much easier maintenance and update as you go through the life cycle of the vehicle. So virtualized devices. So later on today, Ms. Yamasan will have an update on VirtIO and SDV, and there'll be a lot of talks about that, a lot of presentations about this as we go through the next couple days. But we're working on this SODEV, which has a virtualized environment. Panasonic and AGL have invested a lot in bringing VirtIO, making it more ubiquitous throughout our software. You can run in a host or a guest configuration. You can run mixed criticality environments, and you can see here, we're showing, and Honda has shown, AGL infotainment and instrument cluster, as well as Android Automotive in DOMU for Zen. So you get a lot of flexibility. You can run you can mix and match your software throughout the vehicle. And then Panasonic has also developed a unified HMI, so it's a software-defined display virtualization. Allows you to have different ECUs rendering different content to the same display in the vehicle. It's a really exciting technology. We continue to advance that, working with Panasonic and our partners at Collabora to make these modifications. So I think really the holy grail is this continuous delivery via over-the-air updates. It's really a pain when you've got to go into the dealer to update your car. So more and more, if you can do these upgrades, especially these security upgrades, at your house without having to go into the dealer, it makes your life as a consumer much easier. So you can upgrade individual functions. Again, the OEM is going to have some responsibility or some, in managing those different apps and those different streams. They may have different functional safety requirements in the mixed criticality environment. You might see a complete overhaul of your IVI system, or large functions introduced into your IVI system, and you'll be managing much smaller safety and security concerns, in your ADAS systems and your instrument cluster and anything that has functional safety requirements. So again, we've talked about decoupling the hardware and the software lifecycle. So your software engineers can work in a virtual environment, developing their software, knowing that when that software gets into the vehicle, it's the same look, it's the same feel, in terms of how the vehicle will operate versus what the virtual environment is that they're testing their software on. I don't like this idea of treating the vehicle more like a server, but I guess that, in general, that's the idea. So we have at the Linux Foundation a large number of SDV-related projects, including automotive-grade Linux, but we also use the Octo project. SODEV incorporates the Zen hypervisor, a Type 1 hypervisor, which is open source. Zephyr, which is our, I think the premier open source RTOS. VirtIO, which is being used to, virtualize devices and being able to share those across different domains. And this unified HMI, which has been contributed by Panasonic, and allows you to create different, render different parts of the UI in different ECUs or in different virtual machines on that hardware device. And then finally, I think we're a silver member of the ELISA project, enabling Linux in safety applications. I can say that the ELISA project has recently decided to resurrect the automotive working group. We've been involved in the systems working group mostly in the last few years. And so now the automotive working group is being resurrected. It'll be led by somebody, I cannot recall his name, from NVIDIA. and that will be kicking off, I believe, in the next month in June. So that's some exciting news coming from the ELISA project. So we issued a press release. We announced SODEV, our open source SDV reference platform, in December. And boy, we're getting a lot of excitement around that. We're getting interest from a lot of companies, interest even from different verticals, because really, as you look at this, kind of architecture with a hypervisor and virtual machines, and then the ability to have mixed criticality, say running an RTOS. It's really useful across different domains, and there's no, including medical. We've heard from the space grade Linux folks. We've heard from other verticals, and nobody has really put this together in a way that is readily accessible to your developers. There's no like one-stop shop where you can go and you can download this stuff and start working on it. So we're putting the pieces together in our in my talk later on. We'll talk about the different releases, but in our Ultimate Unagi release that just came out a month ago, we started putting some of the building blocks together. As we move through the year this year, in our Vibrant Vimber release, which will be release 22 in September, we'll have a much more complete picture with the Zen hypervisor available, and Zephyr, and some of the other DOMUs and in the Zen environment. So this is actually a pretty tricky piece of work to pull all this stuff together. You'll see some demos out there of some of the early work that we've done, and it's really exciting. We're getting a lot of traction around this. Of course, the big thing that I think affects a lot of people here is the Cyber Resiliency Act. AGL, it basically requires security by design, SBOMs, vulnerability management, mandates patching and lifecycle maintenance. So SODEV will be a huge help in, like I talked about before, secure by design, patching and lifecycle maintenance. AGL, for a number of years now, has produced SBOMs for all of our releases. You can download the SBOM in SPDX format. We've been working with other projects like Yocto to improve the tooling around SBOMs. There's a lot of excitement there. So you can talk to Jan Simon this week about a lot of the work that we're doing there. And of course, you're welcome to join our CIOT expert group, where there's some work going on by Honda and Ninja-san on some of the tooling there too as well. So continuous delivery. Obviously, it's now a compliance imperative. In order to manage all this, CRA requires timely security updates post vehicle sale. And so again, SODEV is really our opportunity to make the CRA compliance available to LGL members and people who are using our software. So a quick look at our events for this year. So the project, we have these all member meetings twice a year. The next one is coming up in Berlin in September. It's another in-person event. We had it at the same venue, I think the last 2 years, at the DoubleTree in Berlin. The CFP and registration are open. So if you didn't get to submit a talk for this one, or if you have a great topic for Berlin, please go to the CFP and submit it. Otherwise, I'll be nagging you if I think you have a good talk. We, earlier this year, starting last year actually in the fall, in September, we started participating in these Automotive World, I'm sorry, wrong slide. So every year we also have Automotive Linux Summit, which is paired with Open Source Summit Japan. And this year, for the first time, we'll be introducing Embedded Linux Conference Asia. There's been a lot of demand for us. We've run Embedded Linux Conference in North America and in Europe for 20 years. And for a number of years, people have asked, well, why isn't there an ELC here in Asia or in Japan? If you don't know, Tim Bird, who runs and created, he's the father and the grandfather of Embedded Linux Conference. Tim Bird has decided to retire from Sony, and somebody, me, this was asked to take his place as chairman of the program committee and various things around Embedded Linux conferences. So I need your help. I need some submissions. This CFP is also now open. So if you want to participate and give a talk either at Automotive Grade Linux or at Embedded Linux Conference, those CFPs are both open now. And then finally, we've been participating in Automotive World expos. I guess we call it an expo here in Japan for the last year or two. And the next one will be taking place in September 9th through 11th at the Makuhari Messe. Is that how you pronounce it? AGL will have a booth and with demo kiosks. I was going to reveal here that we have a very important member of the AGL advisory board who's going to be giving a keynote, but then I noticed, and I didn't want to, unless he gives me permission to say who it is, I noticed that on their website it says program will be announced soon, so I don't want to spoil their announcement. So we will have some really good, there's always been the last few years, we've had some very good AGL related speakers, as well as some panel discussions. I think the panel discussion that we had at the January event was attended by 500 people. And we had a lot of people who came to our booth there and met with us. So if you're in town for that, please join us. And just one final note, that AGL is code first, and will continue to be. That's what we're most interested in is developing code for developers and for companies to use, and that's really what we're all about, and we've always been all about. So thank you, and thank you.